All right, this is homework. Today's date is April 28th, 2022. It's rainy. It's miserable. Natives are restless here in class. But we have only 4 questions, and most of you got it done, which is great. So it's a reach back to all the different outcomes we've had so far this year. And the first one says 1.5 plus 3/5 divided by 5. As I circulated around the room when you were working on it, I noticed that a couple people were still doing addition first before division, which means in your head, it is not sunk in that all mathematical operations have to follow an order, and we call that order of operations. So we have to do our division first. We said the easiest way to do the division, which is done first, is to change it to multiplication and use the reciprocal of the second number. Tori, what is the reciprocal of 5? 1/5. And how did you know that? Right, because 5 is a whole number, and if we think of it as a fraction, it's really 5 over 1. And when we write it like that, we can see its reciprocal much easier than if we didn't do that. So its reciprocal is the inverse of numerator and denominator. Once we do that, we get 3/5 times 1/5, which we multiply the numerators to get 3, multiply the denominators to get 25. And I also noticed that a lot of people were putting that first instead of last, because that's where it is right now. So 1.5, I could put down 1.5 if I want. Or what's an easier way to write 1.5? We know that, Calvin, what should we do? 0.5. We could change it to a decimal, but that's not what we're going to do. What do we want to do, CJ? We want to change 1.5 to what? 3/2, an improper fraction. You don't have to, because with addition to fractions, you could actually add just a half to 3/25 and then add the 1 on later. But we know that addition and subtraction, it's much easier to just kind of use improper fractions and forget about borrowing if you're subtracting. Common denominator will be 50. Equivalent fraction to 6/25 is 6/50. Equivalent fraction to 3/2, I'm going to multiply both by 25. And I'm going to get 75/50. Add the numerators, you get 81. Add the denominators, you get 50. Your final answer as an improper fraction, I'll slide this over a little bit. Oh well, you guys are okay with that. 1 and 31/50 is your final answer. Everyone get that one right? Toby, did you get that one right? Well, you would have got that one right, right? Calvin, did you get that one right? You're not sure? You can't read your own writing? I get that. The second question says -10 plus 3 times -4 minus 5 times -6. So our operations, and then all of that's going to be divided by -2. The operations we're going to do first, I'll highlight them. This is going to be our multiplication. So that's the first multiplication. Now the second multiplication, I want to be careful when I highlight it, because I don't want to think of that as being a -5. That is a subtraction sign. That's the operation. The multiplication is actually 5 times -6. So we're going to do all of those first. We got a -10 plus, what's the product of 3 and -4? Anybody? -12, which we're going to keep in brackets because we want to separate it from our addition sign. Take away, what's the product of 5 and -6? -30. Notice how the subtraction sign is still a subtraction sign. And I'm not going to write the divided by -2 yet because I'm going to do my additions and subtractions next. So what's -10 plus -12? -22. So -22 take away -30, keep flip change, is going to end up being a +8, isn't it? So that whole numerator part, when I simplify it using BEDMAS, becomes a +8. Finally, I'm going to divide that by -2, and my final answer for that question is going to be a solid -4. Our next question is an algebra question using, what's that called when we have a number outside brackets? What do we call that? What are we going to simplify that with? Avery, what's that called that we're going to simplify that with? Distributive property. Distributive property. When we multiply the x by -4 and we multiply the -5 by -4, that is expanding using distributive property. Now, some of you probably use division first, but divided both sides by -4. But I'm going to expand this using distributive property. -4 times x, or any number times a variable, is just a variable term of -4 times x, or -4x. A -4 times a -5 is a +20. So the positive symbol is actually going to create our addition sign. That's what we're going to use it as. Equals -20. Now we have a two-step algebraic equation. Subtract 20 from both sides to get rid of the constant. Negative 4x equals negative 40. Divide both sides by negative 4, and x will equal a positive 10. Right? If you wanted to check your answer, which I'm sure most of you did because you're very responsible, you could erase the x and substitute in a 10. What's 10 take away 5? 5. And what's negative 4 times a positive 5? Negative 20. So yeah, the x value is 10. And finally, our last question says a $20 hat is discounted or discode 10.5%, then taxed 3.1%. What's the final price? Did anyone use the kind of the rectangles idea that if it's discounted 10.5%, you're only paying for 89.5%? Did you guys do that? How many did that? Show of hands. How many found 10.5% and subtracted? How many didn't do the question? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, this is what we're going to do. So this is the cost of the hat, the $20 hat. If it is discounted 10.5%, if it's discounted 10.5%, what percent am I paying for? I'm paying for 89.5% of the total cost of the hat, right? So 89.5% of $20 looks like that. Take my calculator. 89.5% multiplied by 20 means with a discount, the hat's only going to cost me $17.90. But then it's going to be taxed at 3.1%. So using this rectangle idea again, that's the whole price of the $17.90, the 100%, plus the 3.1% tax. What percent of the sale price am I going to pay for with the tax? I'm going to pay 100% of the hat's price plus another 3.1. So Darth Vader, how much am I going to pay altogether? What percent? I'm going to pay for 103%, 103.1% of $17.90. 103.1% of $17.90. 103.1% of $17.90 means the hat is going to finally cost me $18.45.